Hi everyone, thank you very much for watching today's video, and today's video is all about tips to help reduce our vulnerabilities to anxiety. So very quickly we might start with just looking at maybe some of the causes to anxiety. So some of the causes are things like stress, genetics, brain chemistry, environmental factors and traumatic life events. So these are all some of the causes as to why someone might be experiencing anxiety as part of their life. And some of the signs and symptoms then, things like nausea, rapid breathing heavily, heart palpitations, feeling tired and feeling weak. The reason for this is because anxiety takes up so much energy as part of your life that you'll often feel very tired and very weak. Other things then are things like a lot of people with anxiety will struggle with their sleep, so their sleeping pattern could be quite irregular, so either struggling to get to sleep or sometimes waking up a number of times throughout the night as well. Obviously excessive worrying and also avoiding situations that create anxiety are all kind of things that people might experience. So if we look at what's taking place, what's actually happening to someone when they're anxious, is that your sympathetic nervous system is being activated, the fight or flight is being kicked off, and when you're anxious and it's irrational and it's not in a situation obviously that demands you to be in a fearful state, this obviously is very, very uncomfortable and has a very, very debilitating impact on your quality of life. So what today's video is going to look at trying to counteract that and reduce your vulnerabilities to that as much as possible. So where we're going to start is with a good morning routine, and this is really vital, okay? So what we're going to say is that part of the morning routine, number one, phone free time for 30 minutes to 1 hour each morning is really, really important if you struggle with anxiety. Very quickly I'll explain why. If the first thing you do when you get up in the morning is go on your phone, check whether it's work emails, whether it's checking your social media sites, whether it's looking over the news headlines, whatever it might be, you're going external to yourself here, and what happens is we leave external stressors come straight into our life. We haven't given ourselves any time to relax and to calm. So no phone for 30 minutes to an hour can make a huge difference if you struggle with anxiety. The other three things in every morning as part of your morning routine. Number one, I want you to read 5 things out to yourself in your mind that you're grateful for in your life and attach the emotion to each of these things. What this does is it leaves positive emotions at a very early stage of your day, at the very start of your day, and it starts to create positive thinking. Okay, so this is hugely important. Then we're going to go on, you're going to have a cold shower. Now, I have cold showers for years and I'm quite adapted to that. But if someone's starting to do this, where you would start to just have your normal shower in the morning, at the end of your normal shower, turn on the cold water. Now, what you're trying to do here is when you turn on the cold water, it will take your breath. And what actually is occurring here is this is activating your sympathetic nervous system. So it's the same thing that happens to you actually when you get anxious. But what you want to do under that is bring yourself back to a normal paced breath. And what you're doing there is you're re-regulating, you're reactivating your parasympathetic, and this is something that is fantastic and can really help people build up a resilience to anxiety and reduce anxiety as part of their life. So cold shower, then moving on and very simply doing a 10-minute mindfulness practice each morning. And then what you want to do is just have a healthy breakfast. So that's a really good morning routine, and it really helps to ground you and relax you and prepare you for the day ahead. Now, one tip I would give you for this morning routine is that you may want to get up a little bit earlier in the morning, or you may need to get up a little bit earlier in the morning to fit all of this in. So we'll just review those things. So number one, phone free time for 30 minutes to an hour. Number two, 5 things you're grateful for. Number 3, cold shower. Number 4, 10-minute mindfulness practice. And number 5, a healthy breakfast. Okay, so we have the morning covered, we have the AM covered. Now what we're going to look at is the night time, okay? So this is also a vital component to reducing your vulnerabilities to anxiety. So getting a good night's sleep for all of us is hugely important. So what we want to look at is that we're typically getting to bed at a reasonable hour, in between the hours of 9 to 11, for anyone where this is possible. Obviously, if you're working night shift, this is somewhat different. But in around the hours of 9 to 11 are the hours that we should be trying to get to sleep. And what we want to do here is the half an hour to an hour before we want to be asleep, that we go through a healthy wind down process, so to help the mind to slow down naturally, and this really aids good sleep. So the 2 tips I give you here is try to stay away from tablets, TVs, any sort of devices for the half an hour to an hour before sleep, and start reading a book for at least a half an hour each night. And this is one of the most natural ways to relax and calm the mind, and just to slow the mind down before you go to sleep. And the other tip that I would give you is, let's do a bit of journaling each night, and this takes about 3 to 5 minutes at the very, very most, so it doesn't take a lot of time. And the journaling that you're going to do is just writing 3 things into your journal that were positive about the day. What you're doing here is you're ending your day in a very positive way, you're creating positive thinking, and you're also supporting the mind just overall to be thinking more positively. And we did this earlier in the day as well by doing the gratitude list. So doing this more as well can just help and support the mind to be thinking more positively, so reducing anxiety. And when you wake up the following morning, you should be a lot more relaxed and a lot calmer, and you should have gotten a much better night's sleep. Okay, another tip, so guys, is looking at bringing things into our life that actually help activate the parasympathetic nervous system, so help us to feel calm and relaxed. So the 3 things that you really want to be incorporating into your day and into your weeks far more frequently to help do this are things like mindfulness, which we discussed earlier, yoga, and exercise. Okay, so each of these 3 things does something different, slightly different. So mindfulness actually helps us to be more in control of our thoughts, and helps us to be more aware of where our thoughts are at any given moment in time. So continuing to do your morning mindfulness practices, and you could even incorporate another mindful breathing practice into your afternoon or your day. And I have another video that I've done previously. You could check that out, and it's a more detailed video on the benefits of mindfulness. Yoga, really beneficial as well, and fantastic for everyone, and just for everyone having a better sense of well-being. But for anxiety, it's hugely important, because what yoga does, and it's why it's really beneficial, is that it helps to connect the body with the mind. So when it comes to anxiety or excessive worrying, there's often a huge disconnect between the body and the mind. So this is something that has a really positive impact for people that have anxiety. So incorporating that a number of times into your week would be really beneficial. Exercise, also a huge important component, because exercise, and when I'm talking about exercise, we're talking about things like high intensity training or resistant training, have been shown to be brilliant for things like anxiety and depression. And the reason for it is that naturally what happens is we accumulate a lot of stress, and if we're anxious a lot of the time, this accumulates physically in the body. So these type of exercises are one of the most natural ways of knocking this and getting this out of people's body, and getting out and knocking off those physical symptoms. So really beneficial, and also that type of exercise is really good for increasing serotonin levels in the body. So that's your feel-good hormone. Other tips, so guys, that are really important if you're struggling with anxiety. Number 1, food. Hugely important. Like if someone that has anxiety eats a lot of processed foods, or eats a lot of foods high in sugar, what happens here is it creates spikes in blood sugar levels, and these highs and these lows that people will experience due to this can really trigger anxiety and actually be a huge contributing factor to it. So trying to remove processed foods and trying to remove foods high in sugar out of your diet are really important. So trying to eat a diet of whole foods, more of a Mediterranean style diet, would be hugely important for people. Also then, taking out caffeine or reducing caffeine and alcohol intake, very, very important also. Caffeine raises your metabolic rate, so this is very triggering for people that have anxiety. So trying, if you're someone that drinks 3-4 cups of coffee a day, even reducing that down to 1 could make a huge difference. Tea is the same, so trying to reduce how much your intake of tea as well. Even replacing this with something like chamomile tea, especially in the afternoon or the evening, would be really beneficial, because it's got more calming properties attached to it. So other tips then are things like just overall making sure you limit how often you spend on your phone on social media. So it's not about not going on it at all, but trying to protect, maybe have phone protected time and just have phone allocate time for going on social media. And this is a far healthier thing because we're going external to ourselves all of the time. So trying to make time then as well, that if you can, and if it's within your possibility, try to get some time to yourself each day, even if that's for half an hour, to sit down, read a book, listen to some music, even if it's to just get away and take a bath. Just having a little bit of time to yourself, really important. For all of us, getting out in nature every day, whether this is for half an hour, or even for 10 minutes, if that's all you can do in a particular day, this has been shown to be really beneficial for just calming and relaxing and grounding ourselves, just being out in nature. And that is a really, really good tip for people to get out and do that. So that's kind of it, guys. I hope you like what you've heard. Some good and useful tips, hopefully, and just to start implementing them into your life. And these will really, really help reduce your vulnerabilities to being anxious. In future videos, what I will show is when you get anxious and when you get triggered and anxiety comes on quite strong, I'll give you some tips how to deal with it in the moment, and some written processes as well. So thank you for watching. Please like and share the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much.